If you're in grades 6 through 12, we want to invite you to join us Monday, May 12th, out to the Downtown Lapeer Food Truck and Car Show from 6 to 8 p.m. Ladies, on May 18th, you're invited to a Girls' Night In starting at 6:30 p.m. This event is free, but please register online before May 14th. Also for you ladies, this year's Women's Priceless Conference is happening September 19th through the 20th. Tickets are available to purchase on our website now and with future conference cost information coming soon. The Pregnancy Resource Center begins their annual baby bottle campaign this Sunday. Simply grab a bottle on your way out and return it full of coins, cash, or check by Father's Day. Be sure to check us out on our website and like us on Facebook to stay up to date on all future events.
Thank you, Mom. Thank you for the long days, for the long nights, for the long road, for keeping us together, for keeping us alive, for keeping track of our shoes, our practices, our recitals, our homework, our games, for the way you guided us, the way you prayed prayers that we didn't even know how to pray. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Mom. Thank you for holding our dreams, holding our tears, for holding it together, especially in those teenage years, for holding our hands when we lost ourselves, when we didn't know where to go. They say, to love is to give, and you gave us more than we'll ever know. You are cherished, you are loved, you are God's kindness to us. And yes, with time we understand, not everyone can really celebrate today, but for those who can, we should. We thank you, Mom, for the sacrifice. We thank you for everything you've done and everything you do. We are grateful for who you are, and we thank Jesus for you.
Amen. Okay. We thank the Lord for you moms. Typically, on Mother's Day, sometimes we just touch that theme. I believe that today it's going to kind of encompass what our message is for you. As Mitch had said, we didn't take the offering yet. We're going to do that at the end. Part of the reason for that is because of the pavilion in the play area that we're going to be building hopefully quickly in the next month or so. I would really like to get this going, but what I want you to do is just kind of think about that throughout the service. And in addition to our regular offering, I want to encourage you to maybe put something in there to help us get that project started. And we'll keep you informed on what that looks like in the weeks to come. But if you'd be willing to do that, all you need to do is the envelopes that are in the chairs, if you will just mark it special project or pavilion project or something like that, so that they'll know that that's what you're giving for, okay? Again, thank you, moms. You know, every year we've had this tradition of the candy bags that we're going to give to you. So guys, if you would come forward. Now, the beauty of what you get, if you are a mom, just go ahead and raise your hands, and they're starting in the back, so just let them know. Here's one of those times where the world is upside down today. I just need you to know that. Because what's happening in a lot of homes and relationships is families have told mom that she's not to serve or do anything like that. And I know, like for my wife, she just about gets the shakes if she can't serve somebody. It's so much part of her DNA. And so I can feel the whole world just shifting upside down today on Mother's Day. When we're telling them to take a chill, you don't have to do anything. they woke up and they had horrible breakfasts that were made for them, and the rest of the day is going to kind of look like that. They are so depleted that even the smallest things are victory to our moms. I know that. I'm going to tell on myself. Yesterday, no intent because of Mother's Day, but my wife was kind of relaxing a little bit, and she's not in the room, so I'm going to tell on myself. So I told her we were going over to my daughter's, and we were going to fix something really quick. And so she's chilling, and I said, I'll make us something, And I just made her this beautiful dinner. I put some hot dogs in the air fryer, and I put some chips on a plate, and I poured a pop over some ice, and you would have thought that I made her this extravagant meal. I mean, and the gratitude that she had, and I'm like, am I that horrible? That this right here looks like something special? And I'm like, people, we've got to do better out there, So here's the other part of the world being upside down. Moms, you get to eat that candy during church, okay? But here's the other part of it. You are not to share it with any of your offspring. I don't care about the puppy dog eyes, and I don't care that they're saying, please, Mom, do not share that with them. Joe, why are you holding that candy? Don't even. It will make you sick, and you'll have to run to the bathroom. This is for our moms, and our moms only. And so if I hear a little bit of rustling of paper, that's okay. It's okay, all right? But you will have a smile on your face, Mom, because there's chocolate in those bags. Listen, I recently heard that when your children are small, you talk to them about Jesus. When they get older, you talk to Jesus about them. Right? There's that shift in relationship and responsibility that's beautiful in the way that your calling seems to change a little bit. So I just simply start off by saying thank you, moms. I know our gratitude doesn't even reach the close to what you have done for your families. Thank you, first of all, for life. We couldn't have done it without you, right? In the truest sense, right? And the labor that began, I'm sure Mom, oh, by the way, my mom is able to be here with us today. Put your hand up. I don't know if you can see her. She's no taller than the chairs here, so I wouldn't have her stand up. I just want you to know. Now, if there's problems that you have with me, right there. Okay? Right there. If there's things you like about me, okay. All right, right there. Right there. That's it. But I feel so grateful, first of all, that my mom is here, because usually she attends my son's church over there. And we've had some discussions about that. I don't know. But every grandparent knows, right? You know, the children, you can kind of push them aside a little bit, but grandkids, you know, they're just... So, but here we are, three generations of moms here this morning with the Berger family, and I'm so grateful for that. But I think of the labor that started with your children and continued with your children, and some of you, it continues on and on and on and on with some of them. But the gratitude that we have for the level of sacrifice and unconditional love that moms have shown to their families, models of servant heart and love, And truly, and I realize that it's not in every sense, but in certainly my exposure to the ones that are closest to me, they have the ability to make a house a home. And my dear mom certainly did that sacrificially with her life. She offered her life to her husband and to her children. And oh, by the way, in addition to what we have here today, many of you know Jack Van Kuren. Some of his family is here, right here. Put your hands up. You know what a blessing that man has been to many of you in this body. And many of you have not had the opportunity to meet his daughter Diane and the rest of the family right there here to visit with us here this morning. And so thank you guys for being here this morning as well. So, moms, there's I look at this church body and I see the same thing. Is the moms here, you've had the ability to make this house a home because of the spirit that you carry. And I'm so grateful for that. Over 100 years ago, by the act of Congress, President Woodward Wilson is the one who actually did the proclamation, and along with Congress, that in fact on the second Sunday of May, it would be classified as Mother's Day. And this is how it says it: a public expression of our love and reverence for the mothers of our country. I don't know how well we've done over the years with that idea or that concept, but I believe also in our motivation to champion the role of mothers, and we're making an attempt to do that a little bit this morning. We often forget the wide circumstances involved in this world-changing role. I realize that the way that I phrase that is kind of dramatic, but I believe it to be true. That's why I said it. I believe that particular design by God and his calling is intended to change nations, and it has. We have proof of that in history, over and over and over again. One mother in particular that you might know about, Mary, that had Jesus. You might know her, by the way. Talk about moms that changed the world, huh? And there it is in that respect. But I'm saying, in our motivation to champion that role, I realize that the diversity of what happens in a place like this is so real. And so the goal would be to have a video like we're having, and send out some candy, and we champion in many respects an idea of what we corporately believe that motherhood looks like. And so we come together and we just celebrate that with certain imagery. And even from a pastoral perspective, I might even come and just share my experience that I've had, tremendous experience with my own mom, what I watch in my own wife, and what I watch in my own daughter, and what I watch in my own daughter-in-laws. And so I can gather that little bundle and I can just celebrate the goodness of what I see God doing in their lives. But the reality of it is, this room is filled with a diversity of circumstances and what this topic really does look like. In some of your cases, your mothers are no longer here. And so it's got a totally different idea of what it means to just pause in a moment like this. And some of you still experience the pain of that void that now is there whenever you think of her and the absence of her in your life. And something kind of in contrast to that is the idea that there's some of you that maybe you had a terrible relationship with your mom. See, we're not supposed to talk about that, right, in church, but that's a reality of human experience. It's not always that clean, is it? And it's not always that functional. I say this all the time. Every single one of us are dysfunctional in some form. We're just different in the dysfunction we have. But I'm saying in some cases, when it comes to the issue of Mother's Day, some struggle because their relationship was strained, or it was hurtful, or absent. And so the idea of sappy Hallmark kind of experiences, they're not that helpful. And so I want you to know that that's not the intent of our time this morning, is to make you feel like you're missing or have missed something. In fact, the opposite, that God would just do something in spite of those past circumstances. And here's another one. You've got categories like this now in our culture where you have children who maybe do not have their mom, and I'm talking little ones who don't have their mom. Most of you know Pastor Vic. He lost his mom to cancer when he was just a young boy. And so you've got that kind of thing. And then on top of it, so now you have a dad who basically is watching his children in a place of grief and sorrow because mom is absent within his children's lives. There are even some moms that, sadly enough, that wish they never even had a child. Right? You say, this is kind of a little heavy for Mother's Day, but I want to talk to you about what's real. I'm saying, well, this is the way the church looks at the world. We look at it through different lenses. And so, like I said, we would like to just gather together and just pretend or assume that everybody's situation is similar, or it's all victorious in that respect. And it's just not true. It doesn't mean that victory isn't still available for us. And then on the other, so I say you have those who wish maybe they hadn't had children, and then on the other hand, you've got those who would do anything. They would give anything that they could have a child, right? We have those of you today who maybe grieve a prodigal child. That's real. And I can read through this list, and guess what? I can think of people in our congregation that fit every single one of these categories. That's a real perspective. That's being able to understand who's now sitting even in front of me, because I know even with this one, there's many of you who your hearts, mother hearts, are grieving because your children are not serving the Lord. Right? It's real. These things are real. And then one thing that really would bother me this morning, but I know that it's true, and that is that there's some moms here who are gripped with guilt, and you're gripped with shame, thinking that you're doing a horrible job because you found your life comparing to other people's circumstances. You're watching these processes in other people's lives, and you get up in the morning and you feel so much less because of a reality of where you have allowed your mind and heart to go, and you find yourself living with a sense of regret. Always. You're always looking at yesterday saying you could have, should have, or you would have done a little better or this. And I believe that the Lord just wants to lift that pain off you. Now, I'm not talking about self-inflicted wounds. I get that. I get that there's times that we, by our own will, we sabotage our own lives. You know, I get that. It's not what I'm addressing here. I'm addressing a natural process of life and how hard it can be sometimes to fulfill these roles that God has in fact established. And then there's another category of moms that we have in our church, and that is those who are flying solo. It's moms where they're having to nurture children, and they're having to nurture them in faith and in life with no male presence, no man, no husband, no father role in their lives. And I will always tell you that I believe that both of these roles are equally important and powerful by God's design. So I guess this morning, after just kind of giving you that foundation of what I'm talking about, I'd like to say something up front. And today for me, it's more about celebration of womanhood than it is even the idea of marriage or children. In saying to every one of the women in this place, young girls or whatever, that your worth goes far beyond a marital status or having children. And the reason I feel so strongly about just having these kind of moments like this is because of what society is doing to our hearts and to our minds. It's trying to destroy the very fiber and fabric of what God has designed and the purposes that He has had for us. But obviously, this morning we're kind of parked on a little bit of a subject of moms, and I don't want to move too far away from that. But for those of you who are not moms, I'm just championing you and saying your role in God's kingdom is equally as powerful, and God still wants to use you in certain capacities as He would and as you would make yourself available. So in her book, The Missional Mom, the author Helen Lee, she asked this question: why aren't today's moms discovering more joy and fulfillment in their journey as mothers? Big question that has 1,000 answers to it. I know that. And there's no way for me in a line or a line out of a book to capture the answer to all of these things, to all of the possibilities of the answers of this question that she asked. But her answer in her book simply was, moms need to explore the idea of a calling and understand both the significant part God has given them and also how the melody of motherhood fits into the grand symphony of God's work. And I read that and I say, yes, and if I could simplify as I do, it's simply put, it's a time when moms would find themselves before their Creator and saying, God, what was your idea? What is your calling and your plan for who you've created me to be? And then in turn, take that idea of who God has created you to be and join it together with the symphony of His will and His design and His purposes. You see, those are the things that the enemy and the society around us cannot disrupt and cannot destroy if you find yourself simply staying on task. I used to think that your God-given design had just been devalued within our society, and I think progressively over the years we've seen that happen. And I'm not talking about devalued in the 60s sense, you know, where you've got mom, she's got this role that she fulfills in the home, and her man's out there bringing home the bacon. And I'm not talking about that idea, how society itself can distort something and make it I don't want to get you guys in trouble, but I make the bed at least 50% of the time. So I see a lot of guys hanging their head in shame right now. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. Yes, I am. Or make myself feel better, but yes, I am. The point being is these identity roles and responsibilities. My wife isn't going to go change the oil. First of all, she doesn't want to. Second of all, she hasn't learned to because she doesn't want to. And I've always enjoyed that, so whatever. She told me See, I can say things because she's back with the kids right now. And don't repeat that. She told me if I got a zero turn that she'd mow the lawn. I have a zero turn. She doesn't mow the lawn. So, and I told her, Terry told me Sherry does. I told her that. It didn't make a difference, Sherry or Terry. Thanks for the information, Terry, but it didn't help me at all. You get what I'm talking about. So what I'm saying to you is I used to think that God's given design had been devalued in our society, which it has. No, my greater concern is now I believe that it's been intentionally destroyed. It's almost like there's this intent to destroy the idea. Did you ever think in all of your imaginations that we would have a problem as a society defining a woman and a man? If you're struggling with that subject, just come and talk to me. I'll let you know what you are. I mean, I have some pastoral insight, right? But I can help you with that subject. I'm like, it's not that complicated. But how is it we become into such a society? And I want you to see that this is not just a logical process of somebody's imagination. This is an intentional thing of trying to destroy the design and the desires of a God who created us a certain way. He created us male and female. So I'm not up here to define these role structures. That's not what I'm talking about. But I am talking about spiritual DNA and the design that God has created in each one of us for a purpose that really, if it's put in his hands, has a powerful component to it. So getting to my text, and I'm not going to spend a lot more time here and try and go through this quickly, but I want to take you to a place in the scriptures for 2 Timothy 1:5. And I want you to leave with something, moms, and I want you to leave with something realizing that put in the hands of Christ, your lives can be used to change generations. And I pastorally over the last 40 years, I have so found that the development of theology and doctrine and learning the things of the Lord have been so enhanced as I've had the opportunity to see the activities of women within the Bible and the way that God has used them throughout scriptures. It's so much as a compliment and an empowerment to the entire message of the gospel itself. And honestly, in many cases, there's not a lot of press time. But honestly, where I see these moments where God brings up particular women in the scriptures, it's such a powerful moment in the scriptures that it just amplifies throughout the rest of it. And I want to share that with you here this morning with just one verse. One verse. 2 Timothy 1:5. Paul, here's what's happening. Paul is a spiritual father to Timothy. And when you read about how Paul feels about this young man who's going to be a pastor, he's encouraging him, but how much of an impact that even this young man made in Paul's life and how important he was there. But what I want to do is just take you back to the beginning. And this is what Paul does. He says in 2 Timothy 1:5, he says, I am reminded of your sincere faith. Now listen, a faith that dwelt first in your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice, and now, I am sure, dwells in you as well. A third generation. And look at where it started. This is powerful to me. As Paul reminisces about this family, in this young man and the impact that he is going to make on generations to come. Paul, as he contemplates his life and he knows this family structure, look at what he talks about. Directed by the Holy Spirit, put in writing, and now he's championing Timothy's grandma and Timothy's mom. To know just a little bit, see, that's the amazing thing, is not a lot is known about these two women. Like I said, they get very little press time, but obviously God didn't need for them to get the press time in order for them to get the impact into generations that would come after them through the life of even Timothy. And I'm guessing because of their faith, they too in their own lives continued to echo these things as well. So just a little bit of background. They lived in Lystra. The only reason I'm bringing that up is because Lystra was a pagan place filled with idolatry. The only reason I put that up is because I want you to understand the kind of women they were and the kind of society they were living in. We have no excuse. We can sit around for days and talk about the reasons why we don't serve Christ with all of our hearts and love him with all of our minds, our souls, our strength. We can sit around and give all kinds of justified reasons, but now it becomes really just an excuse. Because moms for generations have dealt with the impact of godless societies, but there's something down innately within them in this thing of faith that Paul is addressing. And he says in Acts 16:1, it tells us that Eunice was raised in a Jewish faith and had recently become a Christian, but still there was this sincere faith that was in her. And we don't know much about Timothy's dad at all, other than the fact that he was Greek and he was an unbeliever. That's all we know. And so not a lot of information is given, only what Paul is echoing to us this morning. And I read to you the first part of that again. I am reminded of your sincere faith. Let me just talk about that one word for a minute, sincere. Okay? And let you know how important, moms, this subject is. Sincerity is genuine, right? It's without hypocrisy or pretense. That's the idea of sincerity. But if I take it back in imagery, there was an idea of sincerity that was given like this, which is they used to have like pots, you know, and sometimes if those pots were flawed, when they'd been fired, they would in fact put something like a wax or something in the crack of it and then paint over it. So, and then sell it as sincere, when in fact it was insincere. That gives you the idea of something that's sincere or insincere. So here's the deal. Once you put heat to that vessel, guess what happens? There's a revelation that happens. Its flaws or its brokenness becomes revealed. You know how many sermons can be preached on that subject. But you also understand the sincerity of faith. It works the same way. You can have elements that will cover up the flaws or the cracks, and you can pretend for a season that in fact your life is given to Christ but have no fruit in that. And once the heat of the day, once the heat of society or circumstances start to press in around you, all of a sudden that insincerity starts to show itself for what it is. So what Paul is saying about these two women, grandma and mom, is that their faith was sincere. It had no pretense or it had no hypocrisy to it at all. And you know that hypocrisy is simply somebody who would just wear a mask to cover up who they really are. And it's time for us to just move to that place of absolute sincerity of faith. I'm saying, moms, your calling, your design, your purpose is so real and so God-given and so God-designed, and the impact that you can have on the lives of those in your sphere is so, and beyond, is just beyond anything that I can describe to you. I have history of that. I can give you examples of that. History shows it over and over and over. And so quickly, I just want to give you 5 things that stand out to me in this passage. The first one, I've already made reference to it, and that's sincere Christian followers will stand out. It's real. It's not hidden. If you're not sincere, if you're not real, then the heat of life will show the hypocrisy of your Christianity. And it will not find itself in a real condition. So, moms, work really hard for the sincerity of your faith. Thank you, Mom, that you always did that for us. From the time I was young, there was a time when my dad didn't direct us in that path. But Mom was sincere. She was real in her faith. And she made sure her kids followed in that vein. And guess what? Every one of us do. And so do all of her grandchildren. I champion her for that. I question what she did for my daughters. Her daughters, my sisters. I had 3 sisters, and they're kind of like this, a little bit. But boy, did she do good here, let me tell you. It's my story, okay? I got the mic, it's my story, My sisters have a different story, maybe, but no. But I'm telling you, I have watched a woman's sincerity that has echoed from children to grandchildren. And I've not had this conversation with Mom, but I know that there's been times when she has felt like that season is gone or the impact is not so much there. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's an absolute lie. Her life still has an impact. It had an impact in her strength. It has an impact in her weakness. And it's a calling to all of us to find ourselves living in that purpose. So, Mom, well done. The second thing is focus on family first. Again, I watched it over and over and over. It doesn't mean family only. That's not what I'm saying to you. What's sad to me in today's culture is that in many cases, we need these dual incomes in order to survive in some of the cultural standards that we have set. So I see this pressure that is on these young families over and over. But I'm saying to you young moms, you have your greatest calling is to your family first. Do that first. And again, I realize I'm only speaking from personal experience, but I've watched the impact of someone who did that, and she did it well. My mom focused on her family first, not her family only, but her family first. And I'm saying that to me is what Paul is talking about. The third thing is faith is both taught and caught. It's an important part of it. Like I said, when our children are young, we're talking to them about Jesus, right? And we're trying to instruct them in the ways of the kingdom. And some of you feel inept when it comes to that subject of instruction of the things of God. The reality of it is you do not have to be a seminary graduate to know and to understand the things of God's kingdom. because they're actually revealed to children. If children have ears to hear and eyes to see, right? But what they need from you is to learn from the master and live like the master. And that will make all the difference in the world, because there are some things in the Bible that just cannot be taught in a kid's Sunday school class or in a moment of instruction. The best teaching you will do is show them how to live for Christ. That's the greatest teacher. And again, I realize I get to champion my mommy, right? But every single one of these apply to her. I've never seen my mom stand behind a pulpit and teach. She would if I asked her to come up here right now, she'd probably die and go to heaven, right? Do you want to come up, Mom? No. Okay, all right. I'm just seeing how ready you are. She keeps talking about Jack a lot still, so I just wanted to see if she wanted us more than him. So just a mom moment, okay? So I'm saying I've not seen her teach a class, but nonetheless, the instruction has been there by her life. Number 4 is this. In spite of what I've said, there is no such thing as a perfect mom. If you sat down with her, she would probably echo some of her weaknesses, and she could tell you stories of the things that she wished she would have done or could have done or should have done. Every one of us have those stories. Every one of you have those stories. Actually, some of you moms, you look backwards and you see things and decisions you made, and you still, to this day, feel tremendous grief over those experiences. Do not let the enemy steal something from you. Do not let that be part of there is no such thing as perfection of a mom. There is only perfection of the Lord that the mom serves. Which simply means that moms, you get to be weak sometimes. You do. You get the privilege of being weak. But let the Lord be strong in your weakness. Let him be strong in your strengths. Let him be strong in your weaknesses. And you will see what he can do. Perfection is not your goal. And that's why you don't use anybody else as a standard. Perfection is not your goal. Obedience is your goal. Just be obedient to what the Lord has called you to do in the moment for today. And let me tell you, I promise you, you will be successful. The last one is this. Even in a less than ideal situation, you can make an eternal impact on those in your life. I realize I say it, I write it down, and I say, whoa, this is like some grandiose idea. I mean, we got moms that are just trying to make sure that the bills are paid, and you're trying to make sure that the house doesn't fall apart, and I get it. And so often your mind is not set on eternal impact. But I'm saying that's what God does with our little. He makes it big. And I'm saying all of us can talk about being in situations that are not ideal or conducive to the perfect family environment. But again, I say to you, stop with the excuses. Stop using circumstances around you as a reason not to be and to do the things that God has created you to be and to do. Moms, ladies, you're on a mission. I believe that with all of my heart. Your role is extremely difficult and sometimes extremely messy. But nonetheless, it's God's. But what you do matters. It matters. It makes a difference. This room is filled with lives that have been impacted by your faithfulness. And you have to keep going. Do not get discouraged. Do not let your hearts grow weary. Stay on course. Stay on task. Because motherhood is God's idea, and it is your missions field. If you have nothing else that God calls you to, I promise you that He can amplify that beauty to 1,000 generations if you will just simply stay on course. If you're a mom or a grandma, you are God's intentional design. And listen to me when I tell you that the values you leave your children, the values that you leave your children, and grandchildren are more important than the valuables that you leave them. They don't need your stuff. They need the essence of who you are. Doesn't matter what your bank account is. It matters who you are. That's the thing that is transferable. That's the thing that is eternal. That's the thing that will build the kingdom beyond anything you ever imagined. I simply end with a simple story, true story. It's and I'll just read it to you real quick, and then we'll be done. And I just want to pray over you, and we'll be on our way in a moment's time. Davida Dalton is her name, and she is a mom. And I say that because she has 11 children, had 11 children. But this is her own story. And I just think the spiritual idea behind what we're talking about here just is a culmination of what I'm trying to share with you guys. And this is from her own words. This is what she said. She said, "It was a busy day in our home, but then with 10 children and another one on the way, every day was a bit hectic." That sounds like an understatement, doesn't it? That is definitely an understatement. On this particular day, however, I was having trouble doing even routine chores, all because of one of my little boys, Len, who was 3 at the time, was on my heels no matter where I went. Whenever I stopped to do something and turn around, I would literally trip over him. Anybody out there know what we're talking about here? Right? Several times I patiently suggested fun activities to keep him occupied. Wouldn't you like to play on the swing set? I asked again. But he simply smiled an innocent smile and said, "Oh, that's all right, Mommy. I'd rather be here with you." Yeah, and there's the awe moment, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't know that Mom was in the awe moment yet. So, let me find my spot here. "I'd rather be here with you," then continued to bounce happily along beside me and behind me. After stepping on his toes for the 5th time, I began to lose patience and insisted that he go outside to play with the other children. He still would not go. When I asked him why he was acting this way, he looked at me with his sweet green eyes and he said, "Well, Mommy, in Sunday school, my teacher told me to walk in Jesus' footsteps. And because I couldn't see him, so I'm walking in yours." There's the big awe. There's the big one. There's the one. That's the line right there. I'm walking in yours. It's the truth. Mom, it's the truth. That's the difference. We can walk under theologies and we can walk under ideas and all kinds of things. But when our children cannot see Christ because he seems to be this invisible God, moms and dads, we seem to make him a little more visible. Our kids are watching and they're wanting and they're waiting for us to walk right before the Lord. Let today be a time of celebration and rejoicing in the ones that we have had. Those of you who have done it so well, we celebrate you. And those of you whose hearts are heavy and discouraged, we encourage you. We encourage you to say, don't give up. Don't stop doing what God has designed and created you. You have things for your family that no one else can offer. You have things for society that no one else can give. And know your value and take up that mantle and take up that calling and don't get discouraged and don't get overwhelmed. And the Lord will be with you and he will shine his graciousness through your life. And I pray that someday you will see generations after you, just like my mom has been able to see. So she has offspring that is serving Christ because of her faithfulness. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. I want to pray with you. We'll do one last song as you kind of dismiss yourself, but I told you we'd take the offering. It seems like a strange time to do that, but I want you to, first of all, just be obedient to what the Lord might direct you. We're really excited about, and it really does play into the desire we have to build the family here. The reason we want to build a pavilion out here, we have a playground equipment and stuff that we're going to put up. We're looking for places for families to gather together and build relationships, places for you to come, and places where moms and dads can grow together and be strengthened. So just grow in that vision with me, will you? As we see that as the next step to what we do here at this location. Father, I thank you and I praise you for your goodness and your love. Today we have come here to celebrate your idea, your design, your creation of motherhood, and just simply being a woman of God. For those who are not married and for those who do not have children yet, it does not lessen their value to society and to their families. I'm asking that the power of your Spirit would move through all of us for the purposes of your kingdom. We believe, Lord, that these are, in fact, the last days. Every generation has believed your coming is soon, but today we celebrate our moms in the role that they have had in our families and in this church body. We love you so much. A blessing on them, I pray. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Would you stand with us? We're going to play this last course, and please just take the time to just enjoy one another. And if you get a few minutes, could you, those of you who knew Jack well, could you just say hi to his family over here? They don't overwhelm them too much, but they're amazing people. So God bless you. Have a wonderful day in the Lord.